Thank you. And now let me introduce our speaker. Susan Zeeland joined Toastmasters in 2014 as a charter member at the Encore Club. There she served as Sergeant at Arms, Secretary, Treasurer, and President. After achieving her Competent Communicator and Competent Leader awards, Susan attended the contest judge training session at the annual LACE Leadership Education event. After serving as a contest judge for several years, she was recruited to become a chief judge and served as Founders District Chief Judge for the 2021 International Speech Contest. Please welcome Susan.
Thank you, Sylvia. What a fabulous, fabulous introduction. Yes, so I'm going to deliver our judges training today. Has anyone attended judges training previously or functioned as a judge at a contest? Excellent. Now, I have known there are people out there who have more experience than I do, and I love that. So if I miss something or you have something to add, put your hand up or let us know, and we can all benefit from your experience as well. All right. Thank you for volunteering to be a contest judge. This is how our contests move ahead, and you are sponsoring our overall Founders District International Speech Contest this year. This speech contests provide opportunities for leaders and functionaries such as contest judges. So you want to be a contest judge. What's the eligibility? Well, first off, you're a member in good standing for at least the last 6 months. You're a member of a club in good standing, and remember that means 8 or more paid members. You have achieved or earned certificates of completion in levels 1 and 2 of any path in the Toastmasters Pathway Learning Experience, or you completed a minimum of 6 speeches in the Competent Communication Manual. And remember that only members who joined Toastmasters prior to the rollout of Pathways are eligible to use the Competent Communication Manual for their judging eligibility. And the last thing, as Diane alluded to previously, you must be physically present at the contest you are serving. All right. Your responsibility as a judge is to pick a winner. That is your responsibility. That's it. We will provide judges' ballots, which have specific criteria called out to be leveraged in judging, and you will use the same criteria for all contestants. Remember that there's no evaluation. Judges do not provide an evaluation to contestants, and timers will be responsible for timing the speeches and providing a report to the chief judge, just like club meetings. So your responsibility is to pick a winner. Well, let's take a little bit deeper look into your responsibilities. Before the contest, know your contest date. Here's an actual example. The Area G contest will be on Saturday, March 5th. If you need more information on when the contest will be held, I'll put this in the chat room. And this is the actual link. I can't talk and find the chat room at the same time. This is the actual link to the contest schedule. There we go. Communicate with your contest chair or your chief judge. Know who they are and make sure they know who you are. Contact them with any questions or issues now or during the contest. Judges will be voting by ballot, and we have a couple of expectations. Number one, your ballots must be completed and signed or they will be disqualified. What's the number one reason for disqualification of a ballot? It's not been signed. You did all the work. You judged all the contestants, you put them in an order, and you forgot to sign the ballot. Don't let that happen to you. Because, as Sylvia identified, we're all volunteers, this is a volunteer contest. The contestants are here of their own volition. We're here volunteering our time as functionaries. So for the judges, remember to remain anonymous. Do not make yourself known to the contestants, and this is one way to preserve fairness to all contestants. The contestants invested a lot of time and effort in their speeches to be here. So let's do everything we can to make it fair. The next thing is do not share your judging criteria or your contestant placement. That's no one's business but yours. It goes on your ballot and it's submitted. And then at the end of the contest, take your judge's guide portion home with you and destroy it. Do anything you want with it. Paper mache, put it in the fire, line your bird cage with it, be creative. So again, to preserve fairness, remain anonymous and keep your judging criteria and placement secret to yourself. All right, let's do a little bit more and talk about preserving fairness. So speech contests inevitably strive for fairness to all contestants. The chief judge will raise a point of order if needed. So your judging focus should be, number one, on speeches delivered at the contest. Avoid considering past performance or reputation, and avoid personal preference. Listen to the speech and use the judging criteria. Also avoid bias. What is bias? Well, Merriam-Webster says that bias is prejudice in favor of or against one thing compared to another, usually in a way considered to be unfair. Well, we already know we're trying to be as fair as possible. So let me give you some examples of either personal preference or bias. So we've got this cute little bee on the page here. What if you or someone you know is allergic to bees and the topic happens to be bees? What are you going to do? You're going to get rid of your bias. You're going to get rid of any of your personal preference, and you're going to listen to the speech. You're going to listen to the content, the delivery, and focus on the contestant. Okay. Well, what if you really like chili peppers? You can handle heat and you like it, the hotter the better. And a contestant comes up with a speech that either is all about chili peppers or talks about chili peppers. It's the same thing. Listen to the speech, listen to the content, listen to the delivery. And then we'll do one more here just because it was fun. I couldn't let it go at 2. What if you like horror movies? And the topic is horror movies or a character from a horror movie. It's the same thing. Don't let your personal preference get in the way of the way you judge a speech. Use the same criteria and be fair to all. Yes, April says be fair. That's a good one, April. I missed it. Okay. All right, ballots. Judges will vote by ballot. And in 2022, for Founders District, we have the International Speech Contest and we have the Humorous Speech Contest. Those are the 2 for this year. Once again, remain anonymous throughout the contest. And do not discuss your ballots or your voting to anyone, including each other and especially contestants. Personally, I've never been approached by a contestant asking me questions about their placement or their speech or feedback from me. I've heard it's happened. If that happens, just, politely decline and walk away. Oh, look, we have a tip. Judges shall remain anonymous throughout the contest. Yes, I'm trying to drive this one home. And remember, your judge's guide on how you arrive at your finalist, your placement, is your business. So remember to delete or destroy any or all judging criteria and guides following the contest. And another important point, judges shall not discuss their ballots or voting to anyone, including each other or contestants. Okay, I'll drop that now. Judges' ballots. So remember to use the correct ballot for each contest. When you go to an area contest, you may be judging 2 or 3 areas in your session. Remember to use the correct ballot for each contest. Suggest that you write the area number on the ballot. So, A1, for example, G2, or F5. That will help you turn in the correct ballot for the correct contest. Remember that ballots must be filled out completely. They must be signed, and you must write your name on them. You also must have identified a first place, a second place, and a third place contestant unless there are less than 3 contestants. And then you must have the correct number. If you're so excited about who you think is the winner and you just put the one name in and somehow you forget to put the second place and the third place, your ballot will be discarded because it's incomplete. Now, we've been talking about these ballots and where do you get them? Well, the chief judge, who is in charge of every contest, will provide those forms to you on the day of the contest. The first form is your certificate of eligibility. Now we're going to take a look at those, and this eligibility form has a longer name, so I'm just going to call it eligibility here. You will complete this and return it to the chief judge. And depending on the chief judge, you may be asked to complete one for the international contest and one for the humorous contest. No problem. The next thing you will get is a judge's guide and ballot. You'll get one for the international speech contest and one for the humorous speech contest. The top part of the guide is voting criteria, and it's for your use and it's not submitted. So most of that piece of paper is your where you can make notes and identify who may have delivered better in other areas. So that's yours. The ballot is the very bottom section, probably the bottom 3 inches. When this is complete, you're going to provide this to the vote counter at the contest, and the vote counters will count the ballots in the presence of the chief judge who oversees the counting. So this is as simple as the paperwork gets. So let's take a look at the judge's certificate of eligibility and code of ethics. This is what I'm calling the eligibility form. Very simple form. At the top, you'll identify the contest. Is it the humorous contest or the international speech contest? And what's your contest level? Is it an area? Is it a division? Or is it the district? Most judges will be participating at the area level. And then enter the date of the contest. Now, we talked about the eligibility, and that's the first section on this form. You must be a paid member. You must be a member of a club in good standing and all the rest of it. And then there's a judge's code of ethics. At the bottom, you'll sign it and you'll print your name and you'll hand this entire form back to the chief judge. And the chief judge will keep it as a record of your eligibility. Now let's talk about those ballots. So this is an international speech contest guide and ballot. So the top part has criteria for you to use, and you may list your contestants at the top. See, it has numbers 1 through 10. So this is a way for you to list all the contestants on one form and to evaluate the criteria. Ahead of any of the contest chair will provide to the chief judge the list of contestants and their order, their speaking order. And that's what you'll put in 1 through 10. So the chief judge will take care of that. You will also have a briefing by the chief judge ahead of the contest, and the chief judge will let you know how they're going to run the contest and what their preferences are. All right. So we're going to talk about these different items, the judging items in a different slide. There are judging items on the international speech contest form and on the humorous form. So we'll talk about those a couple slides later. Here's the important part. This is your official ballot on the bottom, and this is the piece that you need to submit. So there's a first place winner, a second place winner, and the third place winner, and they must be filled out. Spelling doesn't count, okay? If you have 2 people with the same name, like, Bob Apple and Bob Orange, just make sure that you get Bob A or Bob O in there so you know which is which. Then you must sign it, and then you must print your name so they know which judge it was. Now, I'm going to say again, we said it earlier, the most The most discarded ballots from judges are because either they're incomplete, they didn't fill out places 1 through 3, or they didn't sign them or write their name. Don't let that happen to you.
Susan, could you click on the presentation mode? Look at the bottom of your computer screen. There's a little thing that looks like a computer stand. Just click on that near where your volume marker is.
You want that?
Yeah, because it's small print and everybody can see better. Yeah. Thank you.
Can you see that? Is that better? Thank you, Sylvia. Very good. Now, the judges form we're going to talk about in a little bit, so that'll make it a little bit better. Here we go. Now we switch to the humorous speech contest form, and I bet you barely saw a difference. There's a little bit different criteria, and because it's so small, I did it on a different slide. It's the same thing. Use the criteria on the form to help you put the contestants in 1, 2, 3 order. At the top, you can list the contestants' name as they give their speeches and record their the points that you've given to them. And then at the bottom, remember first, second, and third, and to sign it. All right, so let's talk about, this is the judging criteria that's provided for you. There's 3 major categories. One is content, and that's the content of the speech. So for the international, you've got speech development, 20 points possible for how effectively they develop the speech. 15 points for effectiveness, the content effectiveness. Did it make sense? Did it get the point across? And then the speech value. What was the value of the speech? So those are that's the percentage there. Now notice for the humorous, there's one more. It's called audience response. And you would expect that with humorous. That's the biggest thing. Well, for me, that's one of the biggest things I would be looking for is audience response. So the content for the humorous has been bumped up to 55%, and those are the points that make that. And I think, okay, delivery is 30%. Physically, and you learn this in your clubs. Physically, are they the physical mannerisms, right? And the voice clarity, the voice variety, the voice appropriateness, and then the manner. Well, it's the same thing in both categories, no change. And the last one is language. What's the appropriateness of the language that they used? Well, at last year's 2021 International Speech Contest, we had a contestant who gave a speech that, interestingly, I'm not quite sure how to describe this, but he used a lot of slang that was appropriate. It wasn't negative slang, positive slang. So the appropriateness for him was off the charts because he made the language match the topic and the time period that he was doing. It was quite enjoyable. And then correctness of the language. So this would be grammar and verb tenses, things like that. And those are, the correctness has been reduced by 5 percentage points so that the audience response was entered for humorous. So any questions on the judge guide categories? Now, we've given you a guide with all of this criteria, and there are many ways to arrive at your results. So what criteria are you going to use? Well, there's a couple different ways. You could start all of your contestants at 0 and then attribute points to them. What I mean is, in the speech development, you may have someone who developed the speech a little bit better than someone else, so they may get 1 or 2 points in that category. So maybe you have someone with an 18 and someone with a 16, and you can follow the same process through all the categories. It doesn't matter the criteria that you use as long as you use the same criteria for all of the contestants. And it doesn't matter if Judge 1 uses a different criteria than Judge 2, as long as each of them follow through with their criteria and apply it in the same way. So remember to use the same criteria for all contestants to preserve fairness. Would you guys like an alternate criteria to the accumulation of points?
Sure.
Okay. So I have seen other judges do this. They will start everyone with the excellent category with 20 points in speech development, the full 15 points in effectiveness, and the full 15 points in speech value. If the speech doesn't have the correct value, they may deduct a point. So you may see in these categories for speech value -1, which means they have all the points less 1. You may see in speech development less 2. In your opinion, they could have developed the speech or part of the speech a little bit more fully. So that's another way to do it. So you may have one contestant who has 2 points less than the full points. You may have another contestant that has 1 point less, or another contestant that has 5 points less. As long as you're applying the same criteria to everybody, you're going to come out with a 1, 2, 3 placement. Does that make sense? Awesome. Very good. Now, if you like to add a lot, then attributing. But yeah, it is. That's why what I was going to say. If you like to add up a lot of points, then attributing the points to them is one way to go. But for me, I'm not one to do a lot of math and want to add up. I start everyone with well, I probably shouldn't say that. Anyway, the second the second method is a little bit of a shortcut for you. Now, the chief judge at the contest will distribute a judge's folder to you, and it will have a number on it, and that will be your judge number. There's no meaning to the judge number other than to account for all of the judge ballots at the end. So in this folder will be all your forms. Here are some tips for you. Immediately sign and return the judge's eligibility form. Get that done, get it out of folder, hand it back to the judge. Next thing you should do is sign each ballot and write your name. That means you won't have to do that later when you're feverishly trying to add up your points. The second thing is the bottom portion is the ballot, and you're going to have to tear that somehow, tear it off, and to provide it to the vote counters. Suggest that you tear it almost all the way across right now, and later all you have to do is tear the rest of it. And then for the area contests, I suggest you write the area number on the ballot. And here is my attempt with the snipping tool to write area A1 on this ballot. Now, you will have
Susan, I have a question.
Go ahead.
It's been told to us to get rid of any ballots that have extraneous markings on them. Would this be considered an extraneous marking?
I do not believe so. In some of the area contests, you could have up to 5 ballots, A1 through A5. That would be a long day. So it would help you. You may turn ballots in at the end when all the contestants are done. So it would be a lot easier if you had the area number on the ballot. I do agree with you about extraneous markings. There should not be extraneous markings, but putting the contest number on there is not an issue. Has anyone else found an issue with putting the contest numbers on there? No, yeah. So I would suggest you go back to your chief judge and ask them what their preference is. Remember, the chief judge will run the contest and direct the judges.
If you write the area number only on the upper portion, after you rip it, it gets lost.
That's right. Good question, good comments. Very good. So in your folder with your judges' forms, you should also have envelopes. And on the outside of the envelope should be the area and A1, A2. So you will put both of the international speech and the humorous in that folder. Sorry, in that envelope. The vote counters will come around to pick them up and you will hand them to the vote counters. The vote counters will they will go to a separate room with the chief judge, and the vote counters will count the judge under the supervision of the chief judge. So most of the time, the chief judge does not even touch the ballots, just oversees the counting and makes sure that the counting was correct. All right. Now, I have included some information here that we don't necessarily have to go over, but this is some more information for you if you need information on the 3 areas. So this is the content area. Speech development. Did the speech have a clearly defined opening, body, and conclusion? Were the speaker's ideas presented in an easy to follow logical sequence? Did the speaker use effective transitions when moving from one concept to the next? And was the speech and its purpose clear? So these are just general areas that you can use. I believe this presentation will be made available on the Founders District site. It hasn't been updated yet, but it will be. So if you would like this criteria, it's there. So these are the areas: speech development, effectiveness, and value, that are on the judge's guide. And then delivery, which was 30%. It's the same thing: physical, voice, and manner. And these are just reminders, just questions for yourself. Voice: did the speaker's voice flow? Did the speaker's voice modulate with volume? Did they show emotion when it was appropriate? Did they have a range of volume? And how was the speaker's enunciation throughout the speech? So those are just some examples. And then the last part is the language: appropriateness and correctness. And remember, these percentages change based on the contest. Whoops. Let's go back up. The percentages change based on the contest. So we know that the humorous language is 15%, but the content is 55%. Any questions? All righty. So here's a list of the forms and resources that are available on the Toastmasters website, but these are the forms and the resources that as judges you're going to need. So the first one is the rule book. Now, in your judges folder, the chief judge will provide to you a printout of the rule book. You can also go get it ahead of time and take a look at it. Might be some nice bedtime reading for you if you have insomnia. Here's your judge's eligibility certificate. And these numbers, these are the numbers of the form. So you can also search those: Toastmasters 1171, Toastmasters 1170, and you'll get them. Here's the international ballot. It's number 1172. And here's your humorous ballot, 1191. Now, in 2021, we use these speech contest tutorials. If you'd like to walk through them and get some more information, or familiarize yourself a little bit more with how speech contests work, this is a good way to go. Any questions? Do you guys all feel now that you can be competent contest judges? Very good. Okay.
Susan?
I have a question.
Yes, please.
To what extent does these judging criteria and any of the procedure apply to contests at the club level?
So at the club level, you can determine your criteria. I have never used these forms at the club level. However, if you would like to train your club to be more in line with what's happening at the in the official Toastmaster speech contest, that's not a bad idea. You can adopt the judging criteria. You can look in the rule book. You will be advancing, if you will, your use and knowledge of the criteria here and how actual Toastmaster contests are run outside of your club level.
Thank you.
My club has always done it, but one of our members was a district chief judge. So.
There you go. So Charles and John, I will concur with both of you. Until I became a judge, a contest judge, I was not aware of these forms or the process. And as soon as I became aware of it, I took it back to my club and say, hey, we might be missing something here. So let's use it as a training and, more information for our own club members. Does anyone else use these forms and these processes at there? There you go. Diane does. Very good.
Yeah, I do too. I think it helps them become familiar with judging in general and maybe volunteer to be a judge. We do have
Right.
a question from April. Go ahead, April.
Susan, I popped it there in the chat. I'm not sure if you can see it currently. Is that how long does my having attended this training last as something of a certification? Must we recertify, for example, every Toastmaster year, every 5 years, or is this forever?
Great question. And I did not have it in my presentation, and I will add it. Founders District would like you to recertify on an annual basis. If you are familiar with Stephen Covey and the 7 habits of highly effective people,
but there's
sharpening the
what
saw.
we like and what's required.
Well, it's 50 minutes, or maybe did I do it in 40?
I'm
So
just
it's
saying,
40.
I'm asking truly. So there are two. I guess what I'm hearing is, it's what we may prefer. And it's not that you may not ask to be a judge, but if you haven't recertified, you might not be selected.
I'll say one thing and then I'll leave it to Sylvia. This training identifies those contest judges who will be forwarded to the Founders District level to be employed as contest judges in the 2022 season. And that occurs, and that
Got it.
occurs every year.
Got it. Thank you.
Susan, can I just ask, Stephen, do you have polls to conduct in this session? I don't have the access, so I wanted to be sure. There was some mention of polls, but.
Yeah, at the end, we need to run a poll, and I could launch it now if you'd like.
Okay, yeah, it might be a good idea.
Okay. Let's see. Okay, very good. I'm getting answers. That's good. I want to post a survey link too for.
Aw. Aw.
That just proves you were here. Through the.
So I would encourage each one of you, if you haven't been a contest judge, please take on the role and complete it at least once. It'll give you a much better background on how to be a contestant yourself, about the process, about all the functionaries it takes to put together a speech contest. And really, what we learn in our clubs is demonstrated through the speech contest in a way that I've never seen before. And I get to meet and work with all of you who I never would have if I didn't step outside of my own club.
All right, I'm going to close the survey, and I think 8 out of 10 of us joined, and I can't vote. I don't think the speaker can vote, so I'm going to go ahead and end it. I'll share the results. So we had one person is terrified. 7 out of 8 are prepared to serve this club. Okay, back to you, speaker.
I just want to say thank you to everybody. Are there any more questions?
Yes. Susan, could you speak briefly to originality and also the process when there is a protest on originality?
So you have now stepped into chief judge territory, and you are correct. So if you look in the rule book, there is a section on originality. A contestant can be disqualified for not being original, for mentioning another contestant in their speech, and that came up last year. I'm not quite sure why. And I think there's one more and I can't remember it. So yes. So as a contestant, if you see that another contestant is not original in his speech, you can bring that up to the contest chair or the chief judge. So there are, I can't remember, but I think it's only the contestants who can bring up.
That's correct. Yeah.
Yes.
Not the judges. The judges cannot.
Correct. So the other contestants can bring up issues of originality. And once they do that, once that has been raised, the contestant who is raising it goes into a breakout room with the chief judge and the judges and makes their case. What's the originality issue? Where did it come up? And they explain it. It's very short. They don't get an hour to do it. They get a couple minutes to do it. And then the contestant who was pointed out, I don't want to use the word accused, then the contestant who had the originality issue is then brought into the room, made aware of the points that the other contestant made, and is given a chance to justify or make their case. You know, why is it original and what was their thinking in it? And then again, it's a very short amount of time and they leave the room, and then the judges will vote. Do they think it's their original material, or do they think it's not original? It was taken from someone else. And then when that comes, whatever the vote is, that's how you move forward.
A funny story. Supposedly, somebody contested something that was in the Reader's Digest, and the guy said, "Yeah, I wrote it."
Exactly.
Susan, I think judges can also challenge for originality. I think judges and contestants, and I haven't read the current rule book, maybe it's changed, but in the past, that if the judge thought that there was more than 25% that was not original, they could challenge it.
Sylvia, would you like to take this one?
I don't remember a time where that was the rule, but it's not the rule now. In other words, it has to be a contestant. It can't be a judge or anybody participating the contest. Attending the contest. So,
if you guys want to hold on a second, I'm going to look in the rule book.
yeah, that would be. Yeah, we have time.
I can't imagine. I mean, it's not in my mind. It won't be an issue for what we're doing and what I would be judging. I mean, at this level, but it's something where I imagine at another level, it's like, even if we as a judge can't raise it as an issue, it would probably be part of our criteria of how we assess them. We might incorporate it then secondarily. I can't imagine that the judges can't, because it's like,
I
oh,
think
something doing
you should
plagiarism. We would.
No, just stay with the criteria and let the.
Yep.
Maybe someone might not pick it up, but that really isn't your place to decide if it's original. It has to go through that process.
Yeah, I can't imagine at my level it's going to be an issue. I mean, really.
Before all contests, every contestant must certify in writing that their speech is substantially their own originality, and that's Form 1183. So the chief judge should have the rule book up and ready to go, should be able to share it. And let me see if I can share back again. Where's the rule book? There we go. Let me know if you can see it. Let me get rid of the pop quiz and get rid of that. Protests are limited to eligibility and reference to another contestant's speech. Oh, and must be lodged only by voting judges and contestants. Very good. This is why the chief judge has the rule book up and available. And I will take this as a note that I need to read the rule book again.
Yes, me too.
Very good.
Yeah. All right.
And those are the two areas, disqualification
you,
on originality and referencing another contestant's speech. There you go. Section 7, A and B.
It has a little dot next to it in the this year's guide. Any rules that have been changed from last year in some way have a little dot next to them. So
Right
I
there.
don't know what part of that changed, but something did. It might not be the who can do the protest, but there's some wording in there that has changed.
I think
Very
it's
good.
reference to another contestant's speech.
That was last year. That originated last year.
Okay.
This is for this year. Yeah, little dots there.
So
Um,
something is different.
Yeah. Oh, I think because they are talking about adjournment now. There's the event adjournment and the contest adjournment, and that brackets the time where a challenge can be made. It has to be before the contest is adjourned, not the event. So the contest Toastmaster is going to have to adjourn every contest to set the time where it ends.
It used to be you had, I think, register your challenge before the announcement of the winner. And now you
Yeah.
get until the end of the
No,
contest.
well, that's changed. That did. I did review that. What they want, if you have two people participate or one person participating in two contests, you might not announce the winners till the end of the event. So, and they've changed it to the end of the contest, regardless of when you announce the winners.
Mm-hmm.
But
That I
yes,
did check this year. I went over that quite carefully.
Yeah, Sylvia, and that's important, I think, for everybody to understand, because that is different. How's that going to work if you are, say, doing two areas at the same time? I'm assuming you don't adjourn after you finish area one before you start area two. It would be at the end of, okay, humor of speech contest, you do area one, then area two. Then you would say at the end of that, you are adjourning the humor of speech contest.
I'm getting clarification on that because the purpose of it is to set the time for any protest. So I would think they would do it after every area contest. It just means adjourn doesn't mean everybody leaves. You stay there,
Right.
but they're using that word now, adjourn to close the time.
And
So-
can the contest chair adjourn each contest as it completes and not wait until the end of the day? Right.
Yeah, they have to now. They do now because the protest can only happen for that particular area contest right after it, and before adjournment. So, does that
But
make sense, David?
Well, yeah, the issue with that I see though is, okay, the final contestant, it gives a speech that is totally not original. A contestant recognizes that. They may only have minutes to try to get to the chief judge then to say, hey, this is not original. That
The
They can give it
contest
to the
chair.
Yeah, they can give it to
Or the-
either, whoever's closer, but contest chair can accept it. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
either way, that contestant sits down, the contest chair gets back up and says, all right, this contest is adjourned. You don't have much time. Whereas versus, all right, the first contestant, you can tell is not original. Now you still have 2, 3, 4 more contestants. You would have time to go to the contest chair, the chief judge, and say, hey, that one's not. But that final one, it doesn't seem like you're getting enough time to really point something out.
There is still the time that the judges vote and the votes are collected and tabulated. So there is all of that time yet.
Okay,
maybe
well then, yeah,
They
that's
can
before
build in
the
an extra
adjournment.
minute.
Right.
Possibly. The contest chair could do that.
Remember that after the last contestant speaks, when they finish, the contest chair will say, timer, may I now have 1 minute on the clock for the judges to finish their votes, finish their ballots. So there's that time as well. And that's a full 60 seconds for the contestant to get the attention of the chief judge or the contest chair. This is also something that is provided at the contestant briefing, which is either the night before or the day before the contest. They're all briefed on this. And the chief judge attends that. And also, if it's not brought up, the chief judge will let them know that the originality, I guess there are 3: eligibility, if you're really not eligible, originality, and reference to another contestant speech. I know when I was chief judge, I identified these three things right away, so that that's the fairness thing, maybe to a fault, but they spent a lot of time getting ready, a lot of time and energy. I mean, let's make sure that this is fair, and we walk away as Founders District knowing that we made it as fair as possible.
Eligibility might be that they're a member of only one club and that club has less than 8 members
Mhm.
on the day of the
Yeah.
contest.
Mhm.
The eligibility comes, the payment of the 6 months comes into play when in April, because we go through April 30th and then on May 1st. And yes, the district contest is now in the second half of the year. So every contest chair for every division should be letting their people know and tracking them. Have you paid? And you need to pay the day before. You don't pay the day of because TI doesn't track it. You know, you need to pay the day before or 2 days before to make sure that it's in the system. And when you pull a membership list, there you are.
Yeah.
So this is what I meant when I said earlier, there are people here who know more than I do, and everyone here has elevated the conversation. So now we all walk away with better information, and we all know more than we did when the session started. So thank you all for your participation and for your willingness to make the point and ask the question. Are there any other questions? Awesome. Well, thank you all. And Sylvia, I'll turn it back to you as the April.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Do you have a question or you're excited?
That's Zoom applause.
Ah,
That's
very good.
applause in Zoom.
I do.
Right back at you.
I didn't even get to use my timer, so, but you're right on it. It's exactly 47 minutes. We hope that you enjoyed the session today, everyone. And to thank our speaker, remember to provide the feedback using the link in the chat, hoping that link is working now. And don't forget, there's a link in the chat for the evaluation of Susan today, Susan's presentation. Oh, link is not working. Well, we'll get it to you in an email then. We'll follow up with an email. And please drop into our Pathways Base Camp Management session, which is at 2:40 p.m. today. Visit foundersdistrict.org/LACE to register. Thank you, Susan. Big hand.
Woohoo, thank you all. Right back at you.
Wonderful. Thanks, everyone.
May the contest begin.